Interview: World of Warcraft bosses on aging players in Midnight and expanding the Warcraft IP. Oh boy. I have a lot of worries here. A lot of.
WarCraft itself is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. It's been underutilized, and
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's completely underutilized, and it's because of the developers. Completely, 100%. I agree with that.
want to bring it to as many people as possible.
We firmly believe that our best years are ahead of us. It's game design, but it's also social design, and it's trying to understand and think about how we meet a new generation where they are.
Hello and welcome to the Game Business Show with me, Christopher Dring. Now, the iconic World of Warcraft remains the biggest MMO in the world. It's now well over 20 years old and is about to launch its latest expansion, Midnight, next month.
Why am I doing so early? Because I want to. That's why.
I've not actually caught up with the World of Warcraft team for a very long time, and things have changed quite a bit since I last did. They now make expansions a lot faster. They've changed their dev structure to be more reactive. They launched World of Warcraft Classic, a bit like old school RuneScape. It's a very...
Wow, yeah, they did that 10 years ago. Oh my god. WoW Classic is almost 10 years old. Wait, when? Release WoW Classic. When did it come out? Come on, tell me, AI. 2019. 7 years ago. 7? 7 years ago. Oh, Jesus.
Old version of World of Warcraft, and that has a major impact on what they're doing with the modern game too. So when Blizzard invited me to chat with executive producer and vice president for World of Warcraft, Holly Longdale, and game director Ian Hazekostas, I said, actually, yes, please, that would be quite interesting. Because I want to know, what is the future of Warcraft? How are they catering to the aging audience? What can we expect from Midnight? And what's changed now that they're part of Microsoft? Here's what Holly and Ian had to say.
This is going to be painful, I can guarantee it to you already.
Hello, Holly. Hello, Ian. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
You're about to launch this big Midnight expansion. I'm going to ask a very broad, general question, but how significant is this one? How does it compare to what you've done previously?
It's a big one.
Yes, it's also a continuum of the direction we're going in. The World Soul Saga, this notion of having, a multi-expansion storyline is something new for us, or was new for us when we embarked on this journey. At the same time, though, World of Warcraft is always World of Warcraft. We are telling stories where the world is evolving as we move forward. But obviously, we are focused, I'm sure we're excited to talk about that here, about where we're going with World of Warcraft over time.
Mm.
She said World of Warcraft will always be World of Warcraft, but there's literally no Warcraft in World of Warcraft anymore. The two factions that the last time they had the conflict was in Battle for Azeroth, and that turned out they got played by something more evil, and then they at the end had to work together again. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they already worked together in Vanilla WoW and Zilitos to kill the Kirai. But yeah.
Everything you're seeing is a result of listening and observing, and what the team is passionate about, what we see the players are passionate about, how we watch player behavior. Being mindful in terms of what makes it big, it's this ongoing process of watching player behavior, how gaming is changing, how our players are changing, as well as how they're staying the same, the things they will always want. But we're really excited about it. We want everybody to play World of Warcraft. We think it's beautiful.
And that's the problem. If you make a game for everyone, it's for no one. It's literally like, oh my god. Oh my god, how to explain that? It's basically if you try to accommodate everyone, you will push away everyone. Because you can't please everyone. That's absolutely impossible. You can't make a mattress for everyone because some people need a hard one. Some people need a soft one. Some people want a soft one. Some people want a hard one. What do? The middle way? Oh, it's not hard enough. It's not soft enough. And that's the same problem here. It's the same problem.
Yeah, and I think with regard to Midnight, every World of Warcraft expansion is expanding our world. It's telling exciting new stories. It's offering a range of new experiences and challenges for players. But I think what makes Midnight pretty special is that this is introducing probably the biggest single feature we've ever added to World of Warcraft. And it's an entirely new way to play and experience the game. I'm talking about our housing feature.
Yeah, housing, which should have been in the game since vanilla. Literally, back in the day, they said they would have housing in the game when it comes out. They didn't. Now finally we have it, but the player base is very small and no one cares anymore. But I don't.
In the past, you were wandering this world of Azeroth. You were exploring. You were, slaying dragons and getting epic loot and making friends along the way. But how
the good old times.
Housing lets players own a piece of the world that they can customize and shape to be their home away from home and a new avenue for expression and a new avenue for connection. And this is something that we're introducing with an eye towards it not just being a centerpiece of Midnight, but really World of Warcraft going forward. All of our future expansions, everything we do is going to be interwoven through this system. And
Asmongold was right. Asmongold was right. In the future, they will spend at least half their resources for the housing. Because that's where they will make most of their money now. Asmongold was right again.
So it's exciting, a little bit terrifying, rolling it out and seeing millions of players jump in and begin to experience it. But it's probably one of the biggest changes I can think of in the game's history.
To be fair, I wish I had a housing system in Arc Raiders. To be fair, absolutely fair. I wish I had that. Because I literally would like to make my space in Arc Raiders actually my space. I really would like that. Really, really, really would like that. Absolutely, 100%.
Like The Sims, really, and Animal Crossing and a bit cozy gameplay. Is that a reflection of how your audience is changing? Or has it always been like that?
I think for us, it's acknowledging the audience that has been there. They've been asking for this for 20 plus years. And when I talked about...
Well, you said you would have it when the game launched back in 2020, I think 4. It's literally Blizzard said that we will have housing. But you then never had.
About observing player behavior. We know about our players while we have a full range of ages. We know that people across the industry, gamers that is, they don't have a lot of time anymore necessarily. And we want to make sure we're respecting the ways they play. And things like housing allow you to come in, achieve something without pressure. And we see this more and more across the industry and even across our own players when we watch them play. So you're aware of this, Chris. When you first launch an expansion, we have a whole segment of players that come in and play through the campaign, and then they're happy. They got the story and they're happy.
Sure.
And then they get into a more casual space. Well, we want them to be able to come in and play, which is another reason why we created the live team.
So it's about player retention. Of course it's about player retention. Of course. Why? Is anyone surprised it's about player retention? No, it's not. No one is.
To be more reactive and have patches every 8 weeks or so. because they just want to be able to come in and experience something short term within an hour, half hour. So we want to be cognizant of that, as well as, frankly, we wanted it to, while it's coming out now, Ian can speak to this in clearer terms, but there's been a number of people working on this for years and years because of their passion around it. So
yeah, I think it's a feature that's been speculated about by players and asked for by some players, honestly, since WoW's earliest days.
Do I have to say it again? You said before WoW even came out that there would be player housing. That's what Blizzard said. He just never made it.
I've been on the team for coming up on 18 years at this point, and it's something that was being discussed internally as a potential idea for as long as I've been on the team. But it always felt a bit too big. It always felt just out of reach, because fitting a feature of this scope into a single expansion, just the development cycles didn't work out. So what we ultimately ended up doing was devoting multiple expansions worth of development time to make it everything it needs to be in order to meet players' expectations and exceed them. And I think, so far it's been really exciting seeing people jump in.
So what he's saying here fundamentally is they have spent more time and effort on housing than on the past, 3 expansions. Now we know why they were not so great. This explains it, right? This explains it. We have finally an explanation for why the expansions weren't that great. They had a huge focus on something else.
Back to the question about player motivations and audience, I think it's a mix of kind of broadening our reach and trying to offer new motivations, a new type of gameplay, but it's also about, I think, serving players and motivations that have been there since day one. Mm-hmm. I think from the earliest days of World of Warcraft, we've had vibrant roleplay communities that aren't going out and playing our dungeons that we made for them. They're telling their own stories with each other. They're interacting with each other. And that's almost in spite of us not giving them many tools and a framework in which to do that. Players have always, been drawn to socialization, to cosmetic customization, to self-expression. And I think this is pulling all of those motivations together. I think we're excited to really be able to truly serve this audience.
By the way, they've changed their transbox system, and yes, I logged in a couple of weeks ago, and it's worse now. It's just worse, which is incredible. Why are they making everything worse in this game? It's wow. I'm really surprised. Every time I log into this game, there's something that they change, and now it's worse than it was before. It's really annoying.
That has always existed and been a huge part of World of Warcraft's history, but now can kind of be front and center when it comes to this portion of the game.
Holly, I like what you talked about, these sort of people with less time, and we're actually seeing that, particularly as you look at the data, and the industry's aging, right? We're not kids anymore. People have less time, and it must be true of your audience as well. I imagine you're bringing in new people all the time, but I imagine that how old World of Warcraft is now as a franchise, you must be having it where some of your core, most avid players just don't have that much time or play in different ways than they used to.
1,000%. And I think it's interesting too that there's so many aspects of this game that do largely address that. For example, when we look at guilds and weekly rating, having a schedule you can kind of build some of your life around enables that kind of gameplay, which I think is fantastic.
Having a schedule you can plan your life around. Did you just say that? Did you just say that people build their life around World of Warcraft? Man, this is quite something, isn't it? This is wow. I don't even know what to say here. Wow.
Fantastic. We didn't necessarily do that at the casual end of the scale. And that's why we're really excited about housing, given that housing reaches through every gaming segment we have in our game, between casual and people who, we lovingly call them mid-core.
Oh my God.
And it is about time. We've got a lot of players that say to us, I want to play with my kids now. Like, give me something I can do and play with my kids, or play
Sure.
with my partner. We have so many players, and now the ability to really dig into how they play. It's given us a lot of really interesting opportunities to be able to, broaden, to Ian's point. We are aiming at a game that's approachable for anyone. This idea of a third space that you can come and hang out, and it's not necessarily just standing there staring at each other. You can go do housing, you can go collect things for housing, you can go raid, you can dungeon. We're looking at different ways with the time you have available to have options that feel meaningful. Delves are another part of that.
Oh, delves. I did delves back in the day when they came out with the War Within. They weren't good. I did, I don't know, 20 of them maybe. It was always the same. So it really got old very fast. Yeah. So basically they put a new time sink into the game. Because they want, player activity. Player retention. That's all what this is for. Player retention and money. I mean, of course money, but no. Player retention. Yeah. The usual live service shit.
I'm really proud of how the team has crafted a response to how players are changing and what they're asking for.
I like the idea that at some point in the probably not too distant future, you're going to have a generation of players that grew up with World of Warcraft who are now retiring, and suddenly these situations reverse, and you're going to have a very active audience with lots of time on their hands, and they want a very different thing.
Yeah, and I think we also too, like in our meandering.
If Warcraft is around for that long,
and aspirations, we look at other games that have, a lot of younger players, and they're going to grow up. And why can't we be there to meet them, as they advance? So we're thinking pretty broadly, but not so broadly that we're scattered. Once we make a decision, we are very committed to it. I think housing, to Ian's point, is an expression of that, one of the biggest fears we were talking about is like, we can't launch it if it isn't great. Because that's not who we are nor who we want to be. But we do want to be creative about how we deliver for the variety of players that do love WoW, and those we hope will love it in the future.
I think breadth really is the key there. It's less about change in the sense of moving away from something and becoming something different, and more about, being broader and more approachable in our offerings and meeting people where they are. I think we already do have, retired folks playing World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Sure.
Young students who may have all the time in the world to dive into World of Warcraft. I think, 20 years ago, there was the sense that from a lot of people, the game might be something that appealed to them, but they thought, they're like, I don't have the time for this. World of Warcraft is a game that's going to be all consuming. And if you can't, spend dozens of hours a week, there's no point. That is not what we are anymore. It's not what we've been for a long time, but we still have that depth for those who want it. It is a game that can be experienced in bite-sized chunks. If you only have 20 minutes to play, you can accomplish something and move your character forward.
I don't believe that for a second.
If you have an entire weekend or a vacation or whatever, and you want to go deep, that's there as well. And so I think, that's kind of been our approach to make sure that we are growing up with our players, but also remaining approachable and exciting for new generations and for everything in between.
How is the objective to sort of deliver faster expansions? I know that's been going on a while now, but how has that been going? Have you learned anything unexpected from that?
I'm not sure I'd say unexpected. We've learned a lot. It's very challenging. It is a trillion piece puzzle, and I think just organizationally, the team changed a lot so we could bring focus. So we have actual teams dedicated to each expansion and dedicated to live, and we have a team dedicated to housing. We are a pretty large scale team, but when you look at the pieces of the teams that create the product, they're sort of average size. But for our ability to be able to...
What does that mean? What does that mean? Diablo 4 has a team size of 9,000 people. What does that mean, average sized here? What does that mean? Are we talking 100 people per segment of World of Warcraft? 200, 300, 1,000? We don't know. Give us numbers.
Speed up expansions a bit. It hasn't been easy, but my goodness, how they've taken the challenge. We always go through this on this team, and I couldn't love them more for it. We scope things so that they're reasonable and doable, and they always do more than we expect. Sometimes, I mean, most of the time they tell Ian. But a lot of the time they're like, hey, I added this thing, because that's the level of passion that is required, not the time, the passion. Mm. They find ways to do things without too many compromises to themselves. They're just so creative and innovative and passionate about what they deliver to players to always give them that 20% more somehow. So I think in what we've done, I think as we go through it, Ian, we forget that we're shaving time off for the good of the players.
Yeah.
It isn't easy, but the process has remained relatively similar. It's just around focus, like Metz and Ian, and we have a core crew at the beginning of any expansion. Like 13 is already well underway, Lost Titan's well underway, and we're thinking beyond that. It requires that kind of focus and planning in order to make this real, so that people do have the time and the agency to create what they want to create within. So if I were to say we learned anything, it's really how to be sharp and be clear with a pretty large team about what we're doing, what we hope they can do as we move forward. A lot more communication. Yeah.
The focus hasn't necessarily been on faster expansions per se. It's more been on a steady delivery of content to players without gaps.
Okay.
I think 10 years ago, it was almost taken as a given by our community that at the end of a given expansion, there was going to be a 6-month drought with nothing new in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And like, that was objectively unfair to our players, and something that we've been working for a long time to try to fix. I think from my perspective, the one biggest change, along with just very rigorous planning and pre-planning, I think has been investing in our leaders. Mm-hmm. I think at times in the past, we've tried to grow the team, thinking, all right, let's bring more people on to deliver more content with fewer gaps. But there were still, when we tried this years ago, we still ran into the same bottlenecks in terms of approval, of creative direction, of game direction, of decision making. And I think our focus in the last few years has really been on building empowered, strong, creative leaders, people who understand the spirit of World of Warcraft and can make decisions and keep things moving forward, so that we can work on multiple things in parallel and keep content flowing into our players' hands. I think for those who've been following World of Warcraft press for a long time, past leaders have talked about the goal for faster expansions, I think, as long as I can remember. Before I even worked at the company, there were people talking about annual expansions, like in the Burning Crusade or after the Lich King era. But I think what that always ran into was, again, these bottlenecks where, because everyone was focused on one thing and making it great, the next one along the line withered and was delayed. And I think what, we are, as we release Midnight in a few weeks, this will be the fastest expansion we've ever made.
It's crazy.
In terms of the shortest gap between expansions we've had.
Right. I think before Midnight was The War Within, right? Yeah, and that came out a year ago? A little bit more than a year ago, I think. Or when did it come out? I don't remember. I don't even remember. What I remember is that I was really bored after the first weekend. Really bored.
Regular 8-week content updates all along the way. No corners cut, no compromises in terms of what we're delivering to our players, and no sacrifices to quality. And I think most importantly, perhaps, no sacrifices to team health.
Yeah.
I think I can truly say, which may be a rarity in the game industry, though thankfully that's starting to change more. This is an expansion that was made without crunch. This was an expansion that was made without telling the team, all right, we need to come in weekends and stay late and
I'm not sure if I believe that.
work harder. We did this smarter instead of pushing our team in unsustainable ways. Because at the end of the day, we're going to keep making this game for years and years and decades. And
Yeah.
this is a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to treat it accordingly, both when it comes to supporting our team and supporting our players.
Well, that's a very thorough answer. I like that. Any follow-up questions I might have had were summarily handled. Well, one thing I'm always fascinated with, because I live in Cambridge, so I live near Jagex, and their thing with RuneScape and RuneScape, old school RuneScape, I find that absolutely fascinating. I know that's completely transformed that company, and obviously I've not spoken to you since the classic version of World of Warcraft, which was just ages ago now. But so I'm interested to know, what have you learned from that? What's that done since bringing that out?
Classic?
Yeah.
That was my starting point on World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I think a few months after it launched. I think for the internal team, it was unexpected. For those of us on the outside, it was like, well, obviously, but the scale and scope of it outpaced anything anyone could.
Yeah, people like classic WoW better than retail. What a surprise to absolutely no one. There's a reason why WoW was dying. Because people didn't like retail WoW as much as they did vanilla WoW. That's why they were leaving. I mean, I'm the absolute same. I left because I don't like modern WoW. It's very, very simple.
Imagine, not just in numbers, but in audience and passion, they are completely different for the most part than modern players.
Oh, sounds okay.
They behave differently. They want different things. We don't have a whole lot of crossover between both games.
Really?
So that team is listening very keenly to that audience, and they always have, even in terms of pacing of patches. And it's all very engineered for the audience that is specific to Classic.
Oh, wow.
And then, in my early times, especially when I came to Classic from the outside, seeing this amazing transformation, obviously in partnership with Ian the entire time and the rest of the leadership team, is this idea of, can we as World of Warcraft do a bit of experimentation? Because we hear what they want. Can we do this idea of seasons for Classic just to get a picture?
Oh boy.
What do they really want? And in some cases, they created it themselves, like Hardcore. And we thought the ability to pivot on the Classic team and create Hardcore and launch it as an official realm, like that, to me, that's what we're aiming for, is reactivity to what the players, not just those who create it themselves, what we're hearing, where the trends are, what the mood is. And I think, some of them are bigger lists, like housing. And Classic, it's on a long journey of, I hate to say discovery, given Season of Discovery, but we're in a very exploratory space with Classic, and we are listening. But it has, at a foundational level, changed how the WoW team thinks about the content they create and make, in that it can be reactive while they are committed to what Classic is. Like, there's Era that is the unchanged version of Classic. And then we have Progression, which is reliving how expansions roll out. And we were completely staggered that for the anniversary rollout, that was just as popular as anything else we've done. And in my own history in this MMO industry, there is this group of players that cycle over cycle.
Did she just say MMO industry? Because there is no MMO industry. It's just, MMOs are just live service games. So that doesn't make sense to me.
will keep doing it and want to relive those moments, those day one moments and, year one moments. So again, very different behavior than modern.
Wow.
Different ethos. And so those teams are obviously separate because their focus is entirely different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I know we're not talking about Classic really, but I just find it fascinating because Jagex barely change anything in old school RuneScape. They've been they're terrified of upsetting that core players, like something like 70% or whatever of people have to agree to any changes they make. And it sounds like you've got almost multiple different versions of how you approach it, which is even also interesting, fascinating.
That's how we started. Like when we first relaunched Classic in 2019, the mantra at the time was literally hashtag no changes. It's what our community wanted. The community viewed this 2004 game as the perfect game. And we went out of our way to even reproduce bugs and to reproduce quirks in the game. After I think once a community was playing the game, now it's a living organism. And like any MMO, it belongs to them as much as it does to us. And I think they came to the realization that no, there are areas where they would like to see change. They would like to see some things tweaked. And I think that gave the team license to begin to experiment. And yeah, it's just been a fun example.
Yeah, Vanilla WoW wasn't perfect. Of course it wasn't. There were bugs, there were exploits, there were problems everywhere. Of course. I mean, it never was a perfect game. It was a really good game, but never perfect. Such the thing as a perfect game doesn't exist in my eyes. I at least have never played one, or seen one, or heard of one.
Example of the broadening of the opportunities and avenues that we try to offer to the World of Warcraft community. I mean, they are largely separate games at this point, largely separate communities, but all part of, all under this World of Warcraft umbrella and part of our community worldwide.
Fascinating. You've been part of Microsoft now for quite a while. They've obviously got a load of things they do when it comes to servicing, but you obviously are even more experienced in many other ways than they are. How have you found life under there? There's been a lot of collaboration, a lot of working together?
I think honestly, one of the best things about it has been, we get on calls with the Elder Scrolls team, we talk to them, we get insights from Minecraft and chat with them, and it does unlock all this opportunity that probably would have been there if we made the phone call. But other than that, we don't really feel their presence. We don't feel a Microsoft presence. I think they've been very trusting and supportive of the work we're doing. To say the phrase, keep cooking, keep doing what you do. And we're doing that with insights and sharing knowledge with other teams and having visits with them. And I think that's one of the joyous things. And the other side of it too is looking at all the opportunity that, being part of Microsoft can deliver for our players. Where are the opportunities there for, as we want to grow? And there's, probably some obvious glaring topics in there, but that to me is where the opportunity lies. I've only seen it so far consequential only in the positive way. They've been inclusive. We get to hear and see really cool things that are coming up that we wouldn't see otherwise.
Oh, great.
But obviously it's the connections and learnings, especially from Elder Scrolls and Minecraft and other live service games where...
Elder Scrolls and Minecraft, okay. I didn't expect that at all.
What can we share? What can we learn? Where are we going? What are we seeing? It's fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to go back to something you said earlier, which was around sometimes you just want to try stuff. I'm interested in this because obviously you want to listen to the players. That's the whole strategy. If you've got a successful live service business, you listen to the players, you react to the players. And that's what we've talked about throughout this whole chat. But also you're creators, you're artists, right? You want to come up with new ideas and innovations and stuff. You want to give players things they didn't even realize they wanted, right? So how do you strike that balance between wanting to create and innovate and just break stuff? And obviously also the most important thing, which is making sure we react to what they're saying.
I think listening to players is less about hearing them say, we want X, and then going and making X. It's more about them telling us what they enjoy, what they're frustrated with, what they wish there was more of, and both, telling us through forums, through social media, through in-game feedback, but also just through data, through their behavior, and making sure we have good analytics so that we're understanding what our silent majority or plurality of players are actually doing with their time, the people who aren't necessarily going to forums or to X or whatever.
Then why are there still mythic keys? Remember Asmongold always complaining about mythic keys for years? Are they, by the way, are they still a thing? I would guess they still are. I don't remember. I never did mythic dungeons at all. Or raids. But yeah, I've heard that they are a problem. So why do they even exist anymore? Why? Why do they exist?
To talk to us. And then, yeah, just trying to serve those motivations. I think one of the most exciting features that we've added to WoW in recent years, Holly referenced it earlier. It was a feature called Delves that we added in the War Within expansion that are basically, very dynamic solo or small group dungeons that rather than needing a pre-made group to do, you can just do on your own in your own time.
Yeah,
That's
but
not
they're
something
boring.
players were explicitly asking for. But what we were seeing was that there were tons of players who played solo, who maybe played with a single friend, who engaged with the game deeply, but then kind of hit a wall at our end game where it felt like you needed to join a large group in order to progress further, in order to do anything. And so, understanding that gap, understanding this audience's need is a big part of what led us to say, okay, we're going to prioritize really adding a true deep end game for them. And that's become and remains a pillar of World of Warcraft today and going forward. And I think it's something that, some players, it was interesting to see a lot of our loudest players, frankly, a lot of our influencers, content creators, were skeptical about the feature when it was initially announced because it wasn't for them.
Right.
They were already enjoying going into raids with 15 other people or whatever, and kind of wondered, like, why is Blizzard wasting their time on this thing? Turns out Delves are, one of the most popular features we've ever made.
Wow.
They just weren't aimed
I'm
necessarily
surprised.
at our hardcore audience, but it's what players needed.
Yeah, that must be difficult when you've got so many different audiences, all different shapes and sizes, all wanting different things.
It's hard. It's really hard not to react and not to overreact. So, grateful that we have all these avenues to collect data so we can try and get the true story, not the story of the moment,
I think it's one of the hallmarks of World of Warcraft. I think from a developer's perspective, boy, is it challenging. It would be so much simpler if we could just pick one or two play styles and say, okay, we're going to make the game for these players and we're going to hyper serve them. And it would be much easier for everyone and it would be a far worse game. And I think part of the magic of World of Warcraft is that you can have a dozen different people who all identify as serious WoW players. You could sit them around a table and ask them what it is that they like about the game and what they do when they log in, and you could hear a dozen different stories. But all of those people cohabit the same interconnection.
And no one will be saying they do ERP because they don't want to be embarrassed.
MMO world, and that world is so much richer for all of those different perspectives than it would be if we just picked one or two play styles and said, okay, we're going to cater to those at the expense of everything else.
And I just wanted to say, when you were asking about, how do we make sure we, as creators, are doing what we think players want? And, we have all this information at our backs, but really, like, even when we talk about the inception of an expansion, if we take Last Titan, for example, it's sitting in a room and it's like, we're gamers. We love WoW. What do we want to see? Like, what do we want this game to do? And we go through, like, what's going to make us sit up and notice, not just our player base, but what are we super passionate about? And you get incredible ideas that are innovations grounded in, a passion for the game.
Really?
Where we see the world can evolve a little bit for players. So there is absolutely room. I'm really proud of the team, the fact that we go in informed. So these aren't whims. They're based on a foundation of solving a problem, which our team is incredibly good at.
This is really good. It's really fascinating.
I want to press X for doubt here. I want to, because They have made so many mistakes in the past. It's not even funny.
In chat, getting insight into how you're working and the team and all of that. But I'm interested to know then and obviously I'm not asking for a detailed roadmap here, but I often say, what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? I guess if you can have a 10-year plan in video games, I don't know if that's remotely possible. But like, what's the long-term vision of where you'd like to end up?
I mean,
I think here comes the part where they said they wish they never called it WarCraft.
top line, we want everybody to be able to play WoW. I will say this for myself.
Why do you want everyone to be able to play it? Why? I mean, what does that even mean, able? You mean from a physical standpoint? Or everyone to enjoy it? Because if you make it for everyone to enjoy it, you will fail. You will fail. Absolutely. If you try to please everyone, you please no one.
I think WarCraft itself is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. I think, in my humble opinion,
it was a great IP.
Been underutilized, and I just want to bring it to as many people as possible. And that means, evolving what WarCraft means, what it is, and where it's going. We want it to be approachable. And that's also part of it. Even with Chris Metzen, we talk about, sometimes he's like, man, I wish we hadn't called it WarCraft.
And here we go. Here we go. Oh boy. Oh boy, this is so dumb.
Sounds kind of intimidating. Like, nobody really thinks that about Warhammer. It's an understood name, essentially. So this idea of third space in our online worlds, we couldn't even define what that means exactly, but we're working on figuring that out. We want people to come in and hang out and have birthdays, have weddings, have raids, grand adventures, play with.
We had that in Classic. What are you talking about? We had that already. It's... Are we retarded? We already had that 20 years ago. Yes, 20 years ago. What are we on about here?
Their friends, meet new friends, like all the things that traditionally for over 20 years World of Warcraft has been good at. And at the same time, we want to take advantage of 20 years of stories that have been told and not told, and start bringing it out to the world in a broader way. Like, that's my goal and vision. And I know Ian supports it. And, when we do hear these impassioned cries from, parents who are like, please, let me play this game with my kids. I just want to hang out with them.
You can. You already can play the game with your kids. But, oh my god, this interview all of a sudden went from, okay, yeah, this is, you're talking business, to, wow, this is stupid. This is really stupid. What the fuck?
My kids, and I don't want to do it in other games. I want to do it in the game I love. And so that's a minor seed of the vast, potential garden of, people who love incredible challenges. Like, what are we going to do for them in the future? How do we roll in the community? And, one of the lovely things about housing that's a reminder to us is, we only kicked that off in earnest in December, to have people filtering into it. And just to see there's now a whole community forming around how to make stuff. That to me is the beauty of MMOs. It becomes a real community, not just in-game, but in-game.
We had that 20 years ago. What is he going on about? You never invented anything new. We are literally talking here about things that existed 20 years ago. What is this?
And out that supports each other. And that to me is the dream. And as much of that as we can create, loving community that likes to inform and be experts and share, That to me is online spaces in a fantasy realm that gives you an escape, gives you a place to hang out, gives you something to focus on when maybe things outside of that realm maybe not so good, or even if they're great and you want to share it with somebody. So I think an ink is.
So you mean a guild, a friends list, things that were in the game when it launched? What is this? Yes, she literally tries to fix a problem that doesn't exist. That's already in there. And yes, my voice sounds different because I don't know why. I guess Microsoft fucked something up with my microphone and then I had to readjust settings and shit like that. Back to the video. This is completely stupid. She literally, they literally try to make things for stuff that I'm confused. What do you want to do? Do you want to create Guild Plus? What do you want to do? And the thing that people want to play with their children, or we give them an option to, they just play with their children. I mean, if I had children and I wanted to play World of Warcraft with them, I just would. I would most likely fire up Classic instead of, retail, because retail, ugh. But I just would play with them. I would just create a character with them, several characters. I create a character, create characters for them, with them, and then we would just play. It's like more deeper and stuffy. Okay. And what are we going on here about? What is she talking about? I don't understand what she is talking about.
Speak to too. That to me is, broadly speaking, every decision we make has that kind of thread in it. And where are we going? How do we get to this space where everyone is welcome? Tying into how they play and the activities they want to do and who they want to do it with, and even who they don't want to. The whole team is excited about this idea of, we want to preserve what World of Warcraft is and what people expect. We're never going to stop doing the things we know people love. But at the same time, I think we have a bigger vision simply than an MMORPG.
Mm-hmm.
In my.
What? Oh no. Is this their attempt of a metaverse? Please don't. Please don't. Please no metaverse. Oh, please, 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 please no. No. And why do you want World of Warcraft to be more than an MMO? Why? Stop being stupid. Stop making things for people that don't exist.
Well, Ian, do you have anything to add to that, or is that robustly answered?
I mean, I think, yeah, we firmly believe that our best years are ahead of us. It's game design, but it's also social design, and it's trying to understand and think about, how we meet a new generation where they are. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's going to mean thinking outside.
A new generation. If you want young people to play your game, make a game cool. And let me tell you, World of Warcraft isn't cool anymore. The young people don't give a fuck about World of Warcraft. Because it's an old game that's an over 20-year-old game. Their parents and maybe even grandparents played. They don't care. Especially teenagers don't.
The box in some places compared to what our game has traditionally been, but we're excited to keep taking big swings and to dream big and to do what we can to make that a reality.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of the time, and I know that you're building up to the launch of the expansion. Now you're doing stuff in game and having sort of getting people, so you're right in the midst of it, so I'll let you get back to it. But Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining us. It's a fascinating to see WarCraft. And I do honestly believe that in like 20 years' time, we're going to get a load of retired people just flooding back in. I'm looking forward to my generation getting. I mean, a bunch of them still play, but some of them don't have as much time anymore. So.
Oh, we can hang out. You can join our guild.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, looking for WoW parties in the old in the retirement homes. It'll happen. I believe it. I believe it will happen. Thank you so much.
I don't.
Cosplay could be a thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's somebody linked me to an esports team of people, pensioner esports teams. I think it's great. That's going to happen. It's happening.
I'm in.
We're still in the early days of video games.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Ian. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of the Game Business Show. Thank you to Holly and Ian for joining me. I actually...
Yeah, I think this was... I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what to say. I'm more confused than anything else. What are their plans for World of Warcraft? Where I'm from, Germany, yes. Everything you said is exactly the opposite of what the average actual gamer wants, especially out of WoW. You have lost the plot. Yes, absolutely. That feel when the HR department takes over. Yep. This really sounds like WoW is going to get the Star Wars treatment it already had. Q in the Warlords of Draenor cinematic. Someone's watching us, Mongols. Wish we didn't call it Warcraft. It sounds kinda intimidating. Yeah, holy fucking shit. Yes, absolutely. How many times are these idiots going to shoot themselves in foot? We are listening. Who's in charge? Helen Keller? Yeah. It's World of Warcraft, people. What the fuck are you doing? That's also my fault. We have truly lost them, yeah. When HR runs a company, holy shit, yeah. Wish they would go back into the dark fantasy. Oh god, yes. Fun fact, Bobby Kotick is in the Epstein files. Yes. And he actually protected Warcraft from these people. Wasn't there like a magazine that covered early days of WoW, and basically there was a photo of all devs just pretending to fight one another, at least one of them with sword and hand, creating together choreographies for battle or something like that. Yeah. I remember seeing reading about World of Warcraft, and before it was released, and they planned housing. Fucking hell, they talk about it like it's actual daycare and not an IP built on race wars. It's over. Yes. Ma'am, this is a wargaming table, not a family therapy session. Yeah. Yeah, this was something. It really was something. And not in a good way.